Welcome everyone. Thank you again for taking your time out to be here. Welcome back again to the T2E podcast where we sit down and talk college Valorant here. So today I got a great guest with me, one of my best friends, Teddy. She's one of the best female players I've ever seen. I will always say that she's better than the ones that you see on TV all the time. She doesn't get her flowers. You need to give her flowers, man. So
I appreciate that.
thank you again for taking the time out to be here, Teddy. I really appreciate it. So if you can, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about some stuff. I don't know what questions you have in store, but I mean, you covered it better than I could cover it myself. I just am a college student at Georgia Tech. Went pro for a little bit in the female scene, the game changer scene, and now I'm back at college. Well, not doing collegiate esports anymore, but I am back at doing full-time school since I was just doing that for the summer. Still gaming here and there, but chilling right now, so it's pretty calm.
That's good. That's good then. So I know you played for Georgia Tech. How was the experience? I know you were probably you was the only female player on your team, right?
Yeah, there were no other Game Changers players so far to come out of Georgia Tech, but we do have one who was playing on the second team, Ado Meow. She's cracked as well, but I don't know if she's been playing much in Game Changers. But yeah, as far as GT Gold, it was full of guys. A lot of, I mean, that's like Georgia Tech in general because it's an engineering school, so you got a lot of guys. But yeah, it was the four of them. So definitely a big difference jumping from a team with four college dudes to like four Game Changers players. You can see my cat in the background just lunged into hurricanes.
So how was it, especially with being like the only female? Was it ever like being uncomfortable around for the males? Did you ever like have any doubts where like you thought like, hey man, these players probably are better than me, or they might think I'm not not a good player? Because we do know in the Valorant scene, we have like assholes guys that think that women are bad at games. So did you ever have those doubts in your mind playing with four other males?
I mean, definitely when I first joined GT, I mean, they were more experienced than I was. And I'd say most of the team, they were better than I was at that time because I didn't really have much experience playing like on a structured team at all. I was kind of just like an Immortal 3, like ranked grinder, right? I would just play ranked. I didn't really understand too much about like what went into like a team structure.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great. Like they really are great guys, and like I'm still still close friends with a lot of them. And they were very patient because it was like, it was a collegiate team. We didn't have that many players, and so they were like willing to be patient and actually like let me like learn things instead of like when it's like a like professional Game Changers, right? Like you don't have an opportunity to be getting to where you need to be when you're competing for like a salary job, right? So you have to already be at the level, and if you're not, then they'll cut you and they'll find someone else. Georgia Tech, I mean, that was completely different. Like I definitely got as good as I needed to be to play GC professionally because of collegiate Valorant and like the space that it offered to actually grow. The only thing that was different about being on a team was four guys. Like I played on co-ed teams. I played on a few co-ed teams. I played on a good few Game Changers teams. And I honestly love playing on co-ed teams. I think that because it's such a saturated scene, you can get like a wider group of people. And so if you can find like a decent co-ed team, like people are going to be laid back. They're not going to be like sexist about it, like maybe some people will have those reservations of playing with someone who's like of the opposite gender. But I mean, at Georgia Tech was great. I just couldn't make like that many jokes. Like they would, I mean, you know how guys on a Valorant team, they'll make some sus jokes all the time, and the second I would say something, everyone would go quiet. That's the one thing I will snitch on. They will all go quiet and they'd be like, oh, I don't know if I can say anything. But then when I switched over to the Game Changers roster, it was like hell was set loose. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, I would say it's probably a big difference. I know definitely I would love to see more female players try to get into like the I guess like the VCT side of like the male side of Valorant. I always say, gender, it doesn't matter what gender you are. If you can play, you can play. So there really shouldn't be like a limit on, well, she's a female, she can't play here with other guys. Because obviously we see what you did. You were able to pretty much keep up. Even when I remember at the Georgia Land, when I watched you play, you were doing so well and not even keeping up, but still outperforming some of your teammates on smokes. So and that's crazy. You don't really see that from smokes players. And as you are, you're a really good player. So, you know, would you say that playing with those four guys kind of like contribute and help you into like where it made like the transition to game changers easier? Like it prepared you for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in game changers, especially like, I mean, how long ago did I start playing on Georgia Tech? This was like a year and a half, maybe even like 2 years ago when I
Mm-hmm.
first started playing with them, since I played with them for like 9 months. At that time in game changers, there were not many Radiant players, right? Like
Mm,
most of them, like who were professional, were spending all of their time like grinding it out in scrims. Not to say they weren't like Radiant level, but just like there weren't as many of them just because of how like underdeveloped the scene was and still is. But at Georgia Tech, we have like 2, 3 Radiant players on the team that I get to like learn from and I get to play with, who like are really comfortable with roles that I'm not familiar with.
mm-hmm.
And so that definitely, like, you get thrown into that and then you realize that like the level of play is a lot higher. Cause like game changers teams, even if you're like good enough to be on a team with like Radiant players, Radiant
Mm-hmm.
level players, they won't let you on that team unless you're just as good as, if not better than them, right? You have to like
Mm,
be like consistently outperforming them in trials for them to actually want to give you a chance for the most part. But then at Georgia Tech, it was like we don't even really care. You just have to be like, just like be like Immortal 3 level of
yeah.
gameplay, and then we will like help you with the rest and you can like, figure stuff out with the team. So just like having that opportunity to be able to play with some really cracked players and like knowing that they're not just gonna cut you if you don't know like, oh, like how do I calm properly, like like I don't even know any strategies right at that point. So
Yeah.
having that definitely did help a lot.
So I have to ask this, with you playing against like other predominant like male teams in the collegiate scene, like going against I guess like when you switch over to game changes, did you feel as if like some of those games were kind of like easy because you played more of like quote unquote more like dominant male teams? Was it would you say like the games were like kind of easier, or were they about the same, or a lot harder?
Well, I'd say the main difference playing against like high level like male college teams, especially. I mean, I've
Mm-hmm.
scrimmed some like with my time with Misfits, like we scrimmed Furia, we scrimmed Crew, like the male teams, we scrimmed like the C9 main team. Through all of those experiences, like especially with like the collegiate, like solid male teams, the play style is what's different, right? They
Mm,
tend to
okay.
play less structured,
Yeah.
more aggressive. They kind of just like run it down a lot of the times, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of what they depend on. They depend on just like, raw aim and like running it down pretty
Yeah.
much, right? That's like a common theme. And then playing in the professional game changer scene, I mean, man, some of like the professional game changers teams have rolled me harder than I've ever been rolled by any level of male team in the collegiate scene, Like these people, they're so committed to like practicing and they have so much more time to practice, right? Because they're getting paid for it rather than just like being on scholarship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they have time to like really like iron out these strategies and like be able to figure out like just like these util combinations and like have all of these reps that like top college teams just don't have the time to be practicing. So
Yeah.
when you play against them, you really see like why they're salaried players, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
why they have such a structured like form of gameplay,
Mm-hmm.
because they're professionals at what they do, and they're just like it's so impressive to see how they can like work together as a team, like beyond just raw aim, right? Because a lot of them are cracked aimers, but on top of that they have like a lot of strategy that goes into it. It's just different. I mean, because you have to play by the book,
Yeah.
right? You can't just go in and run it down because they know how to shut that down, right?
Yeah.
So definitely the play style is very different.
So basically, what I'm seeing is like professional players. It's a completely different game for them versus like collegiate players. It's a completely different game. Professional, whether you male or female, if you're a professional player, you're pretty much at this high ceiling versus where collegiate
Yeah,
players
I say it's
are.
just the game knowledge is different,
Yeah.
right? Because once you get to that level, I mean, anyone who plays Valorant, and like views the competitive scene, like who plays Valorant competitively, is gonna
Mm-hmm.
understand that just because you can outfrag someone in like a comp game, right?
Yeah.
Or you can fry someone in like a scrim,
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily make you a better player than them,
Yeah.
right?
a hundred
Like
percent.
I definitely think that the game changer scene needs a lot more work and it's like not as regulated as it should be. And right now it's a complete shit show, honestly.
Oh yeah.
But like the
Yeah.
actual talent that's in game changers, if they had like the proper like organizations to back them, to give them the time to practice,
Mm-hmm.
have like so much potential. I mean, a lot of them, like you throw like any of the Shopify Rebellion teams, even the former Shopify Rebellion team, right? Like you throw
Mm-hmm.
Sonder on a collegiate team, you know, like she's gonna absolutely dominate on that team,
Yeah.
right? Like there's nothing that's preventing her from being better than like the top males in like the collegiate scene, right? It's just like
Mm-hmm.
simply a different view, and she's in a different scene. So
Okay, that's a good viewpoint there. So I want to go ahead and shift to like, you went to college, played for Georgia Tech. Now I want to get into like your time at in Misfits. How did you even get that connection? How did you get signed? Because when I saw the tweet, I was so excited for you. I had to know, how did you get into it?
yeah, I think that's the big question where people always want to ask. They always want to know what was like the day to day of being able to get onto like a signed professional team,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And honestly, like for the longest period of time, like I tell everyone this who asked me, I did not think that I was going to be signed. Not because I didn't think I was good enough. I just didn't think that I had the connections for it, because I didn't have connections.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have like the internet clout for it. And like, Game Changers is very like, especially back then, it was very much so like you get spots on teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because you're good, but mainly because if you have connections, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like the same players being bounced around because they're all within that same community. And
Yeah.
I was like, how am I gonna be able to get in there? Because like no one even knows who I am, Like playing on collegiate, people would be like, Teddy is fluffy. The number of times I heard from Game Changers players who said like, oh, I saw your name from like all of like the collegiate news, but I thought that you were a guy, was just like every single time. Like they were always like surprised. They're like, I didn't realize that you were a girl. So that just goes to show like how little people like actually knew about me, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if you guys know Ponder, right, the goat of Mizzou, one of my close friends, he is close friends with Slandy, former player of Misfits. One time he was five stacking with it was with Slandy, I think Emily and some other like really cracked Game Changers players who have just like been in the scene for a long time. He was like, yo, you want to come five stack with us? And I hate five stacking. I will not five stack with anyone. But
I
I was
feel
like,
you.
getting to play with those girls, I was like, yes, absolutely. I'm joining right now. And so we just ran like a night of like, we played like a few five stacks. It was so much fun. I was just queuing it with them. We were running it down. And then afterwards, Slandy and J Park were like kind of friends too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she happens to like message him on Twitter, and it's like, yo, is Teddy on a team? Like she's cracked. We need to get her on a team. And then he like sent me screenshots of it, right? And I was like, I thought nothing of it. I was like, that's like so nice of her to say, I was like, I really appreciate that. And she
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for any opportunities for her, since she's like, like just in collegiate right now, like looking for team for Game Changers in the future." And I was like, "That's awesome, Should probably like maybe put me in contact with a team that's like free agent, something like Dart Monkeys, right?" I was like, that
Yeah.
would be like crazy if I could play with like a Dart Monkeys equivalent level team in Game Changers at the time, right?
Yeah.
And then like a week later, she messages me on Discord, and she's like, "Yo, we're looking for like to trial a new Smokes player. Like you play Smokes, like would you be down to trial for Misfits?" And I was literally like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Yes, absolutely, I would be down to try for it." And so we set up a date. I went in, I trialed for 2 days. It went really well, the trials. And then ended the second night, they offered me a contract, and they're like, yo, we'll like get the contract like settled, but we want to know like if you're down to play with us, then we'll like get everything else sorted out. We'll like get you added to the Discord and everything. And I was like,
Oh,
oh my God. And I told my parents about it, but I was so nervous for the trials when they were like coming. I like literally could not sleep because I was so excited for them. And
man.
they ended up going great. And I played with them, and I signed a contract for I think it was 3 months. I signed a 3-month contract over the summer, and I
Okay.
decided not to take any summer classes. And I was like, I'm down to see where it goes and play with them for 3 months, right? And like have
Mm-hmm.
that experience. Because I knew that professional gaming wasn't and still isn't something that I would go for like a long term goal, because
Yeah.
eventually, I want to go to law school, and all of that. And so
Okay.
just way more stable. But I mean, who plays video games competitively and doesn't want the experience of going pro,
Yeah.
like if they're like,
Exactly.
hey, do you have anything going on this summer, you want to play professionally at like the game that you love, that you've been grinding, it's like, yeah, of course, that's like the coolest experience ever. And then afterwards you get to tell everyone that you're a professional gamer.
So I want to know, like, how, being all on Twitter and everything when you signed, I know you had to get some clout from it. How was it like, opening up your Twitter and be like, yo, my notification fee is going through the roof right now? How was that feeling when it felt like basically the world kind of like knows you now.
Getting signed to like a professional Valorant team isn't like, that's not like ultimate levels of clout, but just
Hmm.
like within the community of like people that you've respected and like wanted to play with. Not to say like people ego you in like the professional game changer scene if you're not a signed player, but it's just people are skeptical of like players that they don't know about, right?
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't just go on Twitter, you see someone with like 200 followers, and like they're trying to like talk to you and you're like, I've never heard of you before. Like, how do I know that you're like a legit, like normal person, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, they don't want to necessarily be friends with like a newbie, like Game Changers player who like might be trying to use them just for like the connections, right?
Hmm.
So it's understandable, but like once you get signed, you're almost like welcomed into this community with like a new form of status
Yeah.
of like, like it's just so competitive, like the Game Changers free agent scene, because there's only so many like few limited spots, right, on the
Hmm.
teams. So once you get signed, it's not like that cutthroat like free agent pool anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
you are like, okay, now I have a job, and it's like there are only like 45 other people in the scene, or like 40 other people in the scene who have a job and are playing on a team, right?
Yeah.
And so those people, like, it was crazy just like seeing like people that I respected, like Emily, she's cracked CS:GO champ, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, she's like messaging me, we're talking, and like, just like all of these like game changers, professional players, like they're like former like C9 white girls, like Melange's like
Yeah.
rating my stream and like
Yeah.
talking to me, Twitter DMs, it's just like crazy that these people that I looked up to, and I was like, I don't think they're ever gonna know who I am, and they're like, yo, congratulations, like you deserve this, and like talking to you and be like, yo, we should like play sometime and stuff like that. It's just crazy, that like opens up like this whole other world of like people that you can become friends with. And so many of
Yeah.
them are like so laid back. Like some of these people are just like the most genuine, like chill people that you'll meet, and they're so normal, and they're like willing to be friends with you. And even like Sonder, like
Yeah.
if I hadn't gotten signed, I wouldn't have really gotten to like start, like we played a couple Swift plays together, and I was talking about how I wanted a new mic, and she like sold me her quadcast for like $50. And I was like, I appreciate that so much. She's just like so chill, so down to earth, one of the greatest like game changers players of all time. And she was like, yeah, I'll drop off my old mic to your apartment. Like, yeah, like just hand me off like $50. Like I'll see you in 20 minutes, And it's stuff like that where it's like it's not necessarily because I got signed, but it's just like the opportunities
Hmm.
to speak with certain people because I was playing professionally that like came along because of it, like a butterfly effect of like you meet all these cool people that you can like become friends with, and even like
Yeah.
Annie Mall, right? Like I'm playing on the FlyQuest tournament
Oh,
with
you got
her.
to meet her?
I'm playing on a team with her
Oh,
right
you
now,
play?
right?
What?
And like I remember back in the day, I was like, Annie Mall, she's so cool, like she seems so nice, like on her streams and everything. Like I just remember like one of my friends was playing like in a Radiant lobby with her like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, that girl on your team seems so nice. Like you should add her afterwards so I can queue with her. And then the game ends and I'm like, oh fuck, that was Annie Mall. And I was like, well, she's too clouded, I can't play with her, right? And so I was like, all right,
Oh.
whatever. And like I was talking to her about this like the other day, and she's so nice, and like she's genuinely just as chill as she seems like on her streams, like and I was like, that's just like an opportunity that like, man, I wouldn't have thought before that I would be playing on a team with her, but
Yeah.
now it's just like, like she's chill, it's stuff like that where it's like you don't really realize, like how interesting like the people are that you're gonna meet, that
Hmm.
comes as like a byproduct of playing professionally in a scene.
Oh man, that's dude. I watch her streams all the time. By the way,
Yeah.
yeah, I watch her all the time. She because she plays the role that I play. She plays Sentinel, so I kind
Yeah, she's
of
cracked on Senti, yeah.
she is cracked. Like, is she with Complexity still? Like as a content creator or as a player?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Okay, okay.
I don't
I
honestly don't know.
always wondered that because I promise you I watched this because she when I first started playing Valorant she I used to watch her. I think she was like the first girl I came across, first female player I came across that I like watched, and
Mhm.
then I was just like, wait, Sentinel, what is she doing? And then I just kind of like picked up a lot of like stuff that she does, and so I just can't play
That's
left
sick.
hand. I can't play left hand. She can
Yeah.
have that, but
Left hand gamer, yeah.
yeah, I can't do it, but I like I said, I learned a lot from her as well. So that's dope that you actually got a chance to play with her. That's dope, man, because she's really good and she's cool
Yeah,
as
if you guys
hell.
wanted to tune into any of the streams, I'm the IGL for that team. So if you guys
Let's go.
guys want to stop by, because I was like, you know what, if I'm gonna be playing like if I'm gonna be pugging out some tournaments, then I want to be practicing IGL. And they're super chill and they respect it. And they're like, you know what, we like your calls. And they're like, do you want to, you can IGL for us. And I was like, okay, bet. So I'm practicing that right now with them.
Let's
So
go.
it's a pretty cool experience. Something that I've always wanted to get into, but just never really got the chance to.
So I will say when in the past that we played together, even something like the
Mhm.
10 minutes that we played before, you do IGL, and it's
I
really
do
good. It's really good. So
appreciate that.
to be honest, I was telling Steve when you signed, I was like, I wonder did they bring her in as an IGL, because that was the first thing I thought of was like Smokes IGL. It just makes sense. And so
Mhm.
I always wondered that. Did you ever get a chance to IGL when you was in Misfits, or
Carly was the IGL, but
okay?
I did help the mid round, especially playing on smokes, right? You gotta have someone like across the map who like can see everything else going on.
Yeah.
So I got to call some of the mid round strategies. But for the most part, I know Carly's IGL style. She's definitely more. She prefers to be like the core voice
Mm-hmm.
who makes the calls around the map, and she's a great IGL, and she really understands like the game and like people's habits. So I was totally okay with her being the main shot caller, but seeing her IGL definitely gave me some inspiration on different ways that you can mid round and such.
That's good. That's good. So with you like up under her, I guess like learning from her IGL style. What would you say would be
Mhm.
like your like IGL style? Like, is it different from hers? Are you more open? Are you more relaxed? Or
Yeah, I'm definitely more relaxed, I would
okay.
say. I mean, that could change, right, with like going through it, but I'm definitely someone who you can see my personality leak through when I'm IGLing when I'm playing the game. I mean, I'm very
Mm-hmm.
passionate about the game and like,
Mm-hmm.
winning, of course. I mean, who doesn't love winning? I love winning.
Yeah. Of
Um,
course.
but I'm also a laid back person. I can accept that, Valorant is one of those games where it's like your call is one call isn't necessarily always going to be the right call, right? Like
Yeah.
and also, like, if you just hit all your shots, any play can be like a good play, right? Like a
Pretty
decent
much.
play that ends up working out, right?
Yeah.
It's just about calling plays that increase the probability of you winning a round, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, I love to let like my flash initiators, info initiators, and especially duelists, right? Like lead the way. Like if an initiator has info off of something and my duelist wants to just go for like a timing push off of it, I don't think that's something where it's like they have to ask me permission for it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you see a play, like you should go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And like if it doesn't end up paying off, like that's fine. That's how the game is. Like I'm not gonna get pissed off. Like I think that anyone who's played with me will know that I never get angry at my teammates, right? I might get a little bit frustrated and be like, okay, you gotta like be listening a little bit more. But like
Yeah.
I know a lot of passionate players, but who will like yell and get angry. But
Yeah.
I don't really yell, I don't really get angry. I think it is what it is. Like at the end of the day, you win as a team, you lose as a team, and like, you have to like build up your teammates. And if you're yelling at your teammates after they make a wrong play, that's going to make them scared to take risks in the future, and I think that's
Yeah.
really damaging to a team. So I
Yeah.
think overall, like my approach is just like as long as we have like like good vibes, like everyone's positive, we're not like being petty to each other. I don't want anyone to be catty. Like if I see someone like being passive aggressive, like, I'm gonna call that out and be like, "You cut that shit out. Like stop being
Yeah.
weird," you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like that reflects in my IGL style as well. Like I'll make a play if I call it and it's like not a good play. I'll be like, "Yo, my bad." Like if you think that we can do something different, like you guys call it, like I'm down to like go ahead and like try something different. So my ideal style is definitely very laid back. Like I'll make the mid round calls for us and I'll set us up with a structure, but like everything else, like I trust my teammates. Like I wouldn't play with a team if I wasn't confident in their ability to like make plays happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to babysit good players.
That's what you know. What you hit it right on the head. Because I told you before we started. I IGL the orange team for Auburn, and actually Steve was the coach for us. So he was like the guy that had like the structure for us and everything. But
Hmm.
pretty much I would say like I kind of have like that laid back style as well. But I had to learn to one of my biggest issues when it came to IGLing was if something doesn't go right, and I get like frustrated. Like you said, you get frustrated. I pretty much made to a point where, my teammates were afraid to go, to make a play. They were afraid to take that risk. And sometimes with Valorant, you have to take those risks sometimes. It's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. And so I had to learn, my coach that actually coached me, shout out to Coach Xander, he got on my ass about that. And he was like, dude, you cannot do that. Like you can't do that because now you make it to where your duelist doesn't want to take a chance. He doesn't want to do his role. He's more passive now. he doesn't want to, go for those risky plays. He's a duelist, and so it's I had to learn that. So I guess you are already on the right steps of being a better IGL than I was, because for me, I brought a lot of football habits over,
Yeah.
like football stuff over to
Yeah.
Valorant, so I had to
Hmm.
like calm it
Hold it back a
down.
little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hold it
yeah,
back,
for
because
sure. Hmm.
with football, it's 11 guys on the field, and so you
Hmm.
can like kind of like, if one person make a mistake, you can kind of like you have 10 other people to like help kind of like hide those mistakes. But when it comes to Valorant, it's like every little thing, like one mess up can like just trickle down, and so it's like I try to preach to them, like, we're not perfect, but for us to beat these good teams, we have to be more disciplined, and that's something that I was brought up in my team, is being disciplined. But same times, how duelist players are get sometimes, they're like, I got my two, I'm gonna go for the ace,
Yeah, for sure.
so I had to
Yeah.
learn to like, let him go do it. If he's
Yeah.
cooking, let him go cook, go for it,
Yeah,
go
I
go
mean,
go
I think
go.
that's definitely a careful balance, Like, I think that's something that you can talk to your teammates about too, right? Your duelists, because
Hmm.
like I played with a lot of really cracked duelists who just do not know how to keep a man advantage, right?
Yeah.
But I think not coming at them and saying like, yo, like stop inting, like you need to like like you're overswinging all of this, and you see them over peaking, and you like, yo, stop doing that. Like if you're like going at them like that, I don't think necessarily that's the right way. I think
Hmm.
that you should always like come out with a balance and be like, you know what, like admit that they're getting really great opening picks and just like let them know how much better they could be if they just didn't throw away the man advantage, right? And
Yeah.
people tend to perceive that a lot better, right? It's about the
Yeah.
way that you phrase things, because no one says that with the intent. No one says like, yo, you're inting without the intent of being like trying to make them better for the team, right? Like
Hmm.
everyone wants to make them better. Like you're on a team, you're not enemies. But the way that it comes across a lot of times can be like packaged better. So I think it's like, especially with IGLing, it's just about how you're packaging, like, how you want your teammates to be changing for the better, right? It's the same
Yeah.
thing where it's like, if I'm like the other day I was scrimming with like the team with Animal right now.
Hmm.
Oh, it's with Animal, Maple, Habibti, and to be
Oh.
determined. So any flash initiators. But playing with them, and I called like, like let's go down short and let's KJ ult, let's keep it simple. And we just got absolutely util dumped, right? Because it's just a predictable play to like go down short and do that. And
Yeah.
like Annie came to me afterwards and she was like, I'm gonna be honest, like I don't like the short alt play, like I wanna like come up with like something different, like because I just feel like it's too predictable. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's something that like absolutely should come to me and like talk to about it, because I tried to call it like twice, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what, you're right. And like I thought up like a different strategy that we could go for. I'm like, okay, we could do this, and like what do you guys think about this utility? And like we figured that out, right? And it's like
Hmm.
not a point of tension where it's like, man, why does my IGL keep on calling this shitty ass play
Yeah.
where we go down short, we can't keep the space, and then we just get like breach stun, omen blinding, and they just dash on us and we die every single time. Like, why can't we do something else? And she's very mature and like, she's very straightforward, right?
Yeah,
And
she
she's like, yo,
is.
I don't want to do that play. Like, let's do something else, and like a completely non passive aggressive, non like shaming, like why would you call that strat type of way. And she was like, yo, let's do something else. And I'm like, yeah, 100%, let's do something else. Like, my bad play, tunnel visioned on it. Like, we'll reset. What do you guys think about this? Stuff like
Yeah.
that, where it's like when you can find someone that you can work through that stuff, that is like something that you absolutely have to look for. Like I played on a lot of like game changers teams specifically where they don't know how to communicate that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, collegiate is no different, but just because I have more experience with game changers teams, they don't know how to say things in a non-passive aggressive way. And then
Yeah.
everyone, there always ends up being like this weird power dynamic where it's like, oh, 3 players or 2 players think that they're better than like the other half of the team. And it's like you
Hmm.
cannot have that in a team environment where you want to get better. Like if you're playing on a team and you're thinking like you're always a little bit meaner to like 2 of the players because you just like don't respect them as much,
Hmm.
like that is a team that's going to fall apart and it's not going to work out, right? Unless you can like work through that. Like you got to be able to like talk that shit out. And that's easier said than done. But if it's something that you keep in mind when you first start playing on a team, you have like a low bullshit tolerance, and someone starts talking to you weird a certain way and you tell them, hey, like I'm your teammate, don't talk to me like that, like let's talk to each other with respect, that will like change the entire trajectory of a team, right? Like it
Mm.
won't blow up.
Yeah, that makes sense, because our new IGL, Ant, he has like that. He has like that vibe where it's like he's straightforward like Animal.
Mm-hmm.
He's straightforward like that. I remember doing a scrim. I think we stayed on one play on 30 for like 30 minutes watching VOD
Mm-hmm.
after practice. It was 2 teammates him and our smokes player. Our smokes player is like a mid rounder, and sometimes I mid round as well. But they were arguing about a split basically, and you know how you were saying where you wanted to do the KJ down short. Well, it was the
Mhm.
same thing. We kept trying to split through B, and our special is like, no, look, I don't want to do this. Like they keep doing this, I'm not doing it no more. And so Aaron was
Yeah.
like, okay. And so when they went back and watched over the VOD, they talked about it, and they got
Mhm.
an understanding of like what was going on. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I noticed a lot of college teams don't VOD review, and so it's just like you kind of have like this like misconception of, because I believe me personally, what I think scrims can like sometimes, even though you're dominating scrims, it can give you this effect that you're doing well, but if you
Mhm.
don't VOD review, you don't see like the mistakes that you're doing, because because like my coach, like certain fights like on Lotus right now, where like as KJ, like you're walking down B, it's like these certain angles that you have to clear, and it kind of, those certain angles favor the defenders. So
Mhm.
it's stuff like that. I'm winning those fights, but those fights don't favor me. And you thinking because you're
Mhm.
winning those fights is technically you're doing well. And so I kind of noticed, I know it's kind of going off subject, but I just kind of noticed like VAR reviewing is not a huge thing in collegiate scene. So I was wondering, as far as like with you going on the professional side, how often did you guys like VAR review? I'm pretty sure, I imagine it's probably a lot.
Yeah, every day, every day. So the schedule was we would have 1 hour of server time. If we were starting on a new map, then it would be 2 hours of server time if we really wanted to like focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would have normally it would be like 4 to 5 p.m. We have 1 hour of server time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would play 5 to 6. We would play a scrim. And then 6 to 7, we would play another scrim.
Mm-hmm.
And then 7 to 8, we would do a VOD review for 1 hour of like one of those previous maps that we played.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we did that VOD review, we would have one more scrim. So it was always an hour of server time, 2 1 hour scrim blocks, and then 1 hour of VOD review where we ate our dinner and VOD
Yeah.
reviewed. And then once we have all of that settled down, we go for one more scrim where we're trying to apply everything that we learned from the VOD review.
Oh
So
my.
it was every single day, 5 days a week. So 25-hour work weeks.
Oh my God. That
Yeah, but it's
is,
nice to be able to look over stuff every day.
yeah, 100%. That's a schedule. And most people don't even realize,
And that's
that's a
not
lot.
even like we were one of the less like practice heavy, scrim heavy teams.
Wait,
Like if you want
really?
to talk about like Shopify Rebellion, I mean some of those teams they have 40-hour work weeks. Like they're working almost double the time, right? They have like some morning scrims, they have night scrims, they just have like
Wow.
the longest scrim blocks, practice blocks, dry runs. I mean, they put in so much time. Ours was like relatively chill, right? Like for what we were doing, but every
Yeah.
single game was recorded by our coach, and every single VOD was uploaded to our YouTube unlisted. And we would look over so many of them, go back, look over what we could do better.
Oh my God. That it's our okay. Our school is kind of the same way. Like how you guys block everything. We
Mhm.
practice from 4 to 9 every day. So, 4 to 5 is like that server time that we do in server, and then like when we dry run and stuff, and then like 5 to 9 is pretty much scrim, and then we like VAR review like all our games like after practice, and then the ones we didn't get to for that night we'll VAR review before practice.
I mean,
So
that's a pretty heavy schedule too. I mean, Georgia Tech, I can tell you what we did. We said, when do we have a tournament? And then we decided we're like, okay, let's try to scrim like 2, maybe 3 times before that tournament, and be like, okay, what days? We choose random ass days, random ass times. Like, okay, we got 3 scrims this week, tournament next week. Make sure you guys are staying warm. Okay, see you guys next week. And that's what we would do. And then very occasionally we'd be like, can we please do one VOD review? And we'd be like, okay. And then everyone hops on, we do one VOD review, and that's pretty much it. So.
that's the thing with college, man. Is especially at Georgia Tech, it's an engineering school. So
Mhm.
it's you're pretty much busy the entire week with
Mhm.
schoolwork. So
Yep.
I always I would love to one day have that like that schedule where it's just like heavy loaded and just nothing but Valorant, because for me I love that.
It's exhausting, man. It gets
It
exhausting for
it
sure.
definitely is, and I play college football, and so it was almost like the schedule kind of almost reminds me of like football schedule, where we had like weight lift, like we had weights in the morning, And
Mhm.
then we had football practice in the afternoon. And then we had before football practice, we had to be there 2 hours before practice to watch football practice film, watch the film, and then game film of the team we playing that week. And then we got practice, and then you have to come back, lift weights again after practice, and then watch practice film after weights. So it was just like that. So I've always loved the schedule like that. And so when I first got to Auburn, it wasn't a schedule like that, and so it's pretty much like, oh, we're just gonna scrimble on these days, and then I see you on game day, so you know I
Yeah.
I would love to see more college, more like collegiate sports probably take be more like honed in on a schedule. um I was going to ask you, my next question is for you is do you think that like professional orgs should reach out and invest into like the collegiate scene to far as like somewhat like help with recruiting, find talent, stuff like that, where if they were to invest, the schools themselves don't have to pour as much money in it as they would like to. They can have like that professional org come in and like kind of like regulate the everything for them, where the school doesn't really have to do much. They could just stamp their name on it and call it a day.
Yeah, kind of like college football to NFL type of pipeline.
Yeah, something like that. Where like you have like that. Like there's some type of like scouting that they have
Yeah.
for college. Even like even in high school, there's some type of scouting for high school for college teams to recruit. To recruit these high school players. And so I feel like there's not really. I mean, what you can say for Counter Strike, you got what is the ESEA or something like
Yes,
that.
yeah,
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 that, and at the time, let's face it, there was some
yeah.
type of like scouting there. So like I would love to see like some like what Riot would do, or like professional orgs would do, is have like some type of scouting where rank doesn't have to just be like the main source of like that, or just like screaming in general. I wish there was like something, something like that, some type of pipeline like that, where people who do go off to college, their dreams are to make their hobby their passion, their job someday. Do you think that would be like something good for these professional orgs to do?
I think it would be sick if it was something like the NFL. I don't know if necessarily we have enough like investment into college esports right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the big issue, right? Like I think it would be a shame for professional orgs to start investing before we recognize that collegiate is like a stable scene for them
Yeah.
to invest in, so that we can actually have like the right players getting getting like the best opportunities. But I think that, I mean, I see from a lot of my friends in collegiate, like they're actively helping their schools set up like better scholarship programs,
Yeah.
like better standards for who they allow onto their teams. I mean, I think that collegiate, I mean, it's hard because it's not like real sports, right? Like,
Yeah.
because you don't necessarily, like, you don't hit like your physical peak as far as like your mechanical peak at
Yeah.
a certain age, like the same way that you do in like football or traditional sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I wouldn't want to count out, like older players who, like he goat style players who are
Yeah.
like so cracked,
Boomers.
but don't necessarily go to college while doing that, right? I think it would be great to receive an education and play professionally at the same time. I think as far as right now, it wouldn't be very plausible, but I think in the future, if these esports programs are a little bit more saturated and we have like, more scholarship programs for these
Mm-hmm.
students, like the trajectory that it's on, the path that it's on right now,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that would be great. I mean, if professional orgs started investing into certain colleges, to like help give them those sponsorships. But I mean, there are always going to be a lot of like, gamers who don't necessarily want to go to college, who don't want to put in that time with their classes.
Yep.
And I don't know if it should be, like you get grade inflation like you do when you're playing on like a college football team, like you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm on the esports team, so it doesn't really matter. So I don't know. I mean, like esports it's pretty accessible to get into if you have a computer. So I'm honestly not too sure, but I think that it would be a good idea for orgs to at least invest a little bit into talent that they see in the collegiate scene. I mean, people like Jake from C9, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he is the first collegiate player to get picked up by a professional tier one male scene, right? But you
Is.
don't really see that often. I get my claim to fame as being the first female collegiate player to get picked up by a professional team. But if you even
Yeah.
if you look at that, that's only like two players, like
Yeah.
in how many thousands of Valorant players who are trying to make it onto the scene. No, I was just gonna say, so there's not much of a pipeline.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, like, because like my coach, he broke it down to me, and it was pretty. It had me thinking, and that's why I came up with that question because he was saying tier three right now, or your quote unquote tier two right now. We see what's going on with it, where there's no stability. So he was saying, what he told me was maybe collegiate Valorant will. You got tier one Valorant, and then you got collegiate Valorant, and then you got like the quote unquote tier two ish tier three Valorant, where collegiate is like that stable, where it's stable because you go to school. A lot of students are on scholarship, and you get to play Valorant, right? And so,
Yep.
and then some of these schools are offering scholarships to play Valorant, for esports. And so, he was saying it would make sense for someone to go the collegiate route than it is to go to like the tier three or tier two scene because there's no stability there versus with college, but he was
You're
like, if
receiving an education
yeah,
at the end of the
yeah,
day,
you
like
receive,
you're getting
yeah,
something out of it.
yeah, you getting something out of it. You have an incentive to like want to just play and keep your grades up and everything. So that's why I was wondering, if professional orgs see that, maybe they can hop on that train and get it going.
Yeah, I don't know who the players were who were like former like tier 2 players who like switched over to that college, right? And they like built like a crazy like collegiate team. I don't know if you know what I'm talking
I
about,
think it
but
was Cumberland. I think you talk well, not Cumberland. Is Android is on the team? He's on the collegiate team. JC Steiny, like JC Steiny
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
Echoes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
I can't think of those. I can't think of their team. If it's not Cumberland, God, I can't think of the other name. But I know exactly
But
what you're
right,
talking
like
about.
teams like that, right? Where it's like you see that happening. So I think that's already like, like a foreshadowing of what the collegiate scene could look like. But
Yeah,
I also don't think it should be like, it shouldn't be like tier 2 to collegiate pipeline, It should be like collegiate to tier 2 pipeline. But
yeah, yeah. I mean,
it
I
is what it
agree.
is right now.
I just wish because I don't you met Dalton before, right? Dalton.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Yes.
you see what he's doing with the SEC league. It's kind of
Hmm.
like he's trying to turn it into his like own thing where he's trying to like even with like VLR, he's trying to create his like own VLR thing where it's not even associated with VLR. It's its own like
Yeah.
page. And so I would love to see other people take that idea and kind of like expand on that because typically your VLR is, tell me if I'm wrong here, but that's typically like your resume, correct?
Hmm.
For other
Yeah.
teams. So it's just like, and the thing is, I don't have one yet, and I'm still in college. I don't have one yet, and
Yeah.
so it's one of those things where
We
I
definitely need to start adding VLRs to collegiate because that's crazy that
yes,
it's not on collegiate. Because I
yes,
mean, that's the big thing. When I was going to GC, I was like, man, I have like all this like cool stuff on my Valor resume, but none of it pretty much is on VLR except for like one or two, unless we play in like a Knights Gauntlet.
yeah.
So like, what am I supposed to do? Like I don't have anything to show them. I can just like tell them, hey, like like we took a map off of like this professional team or whatever, but what does that really mean to them if they don't see it? Like the stats of it on VLR, right? It's just kind
Hmm.
of like a flex. So I agree. We definitely need to add like more collegiate matches to VLR, even if it's like its own section.
Yeah, 100%. So I got three more questions for you, and I'll let you go. The first one is, where do you see like far as like with women in esports, where do you see the direction that is heading? Especially with you playing on a predominant male team, then going to a a all women's team, and in the pro scene. Where do you see like it heading far as like for women? Do you see it getting better? Do you see it getting worse, or do you see it like staying about the same?
It really depends on what happens after this break that a lot of teams are taking from GC, right?
Hmm.
I don't know if anything's gonna change, but I mean, as of right now, there's only two salaried Game Changers teams since so many of
Wow.
them have pulled out. I don't know if you've been keeping up with it, but
Oh wow.
DSG pulled out.
I did see that. Yeah.
Version 1 pulled out. Evil Geniuses pulled out. I mean, Misfits pulled out. I mean, who else pulled out? Complexity pulled
Yeah,
out.
complexity
Um,
did.
it's right now. It's essentially it's just FlyQuest and Shopify Rebellion, right?
Wow.
Right now, it's not looking great for Game Changers. I know a lot of like teams, a lot of orgs want to see a change in Game Changers before that can happen, but I don't know how that's gonna happen without any org backing.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the future is very uncertain for Game Changers but it definitely depends on what happens after like this big break that everyone's taking.
Oh man, I hope it go ahead and just mix the leagues together and let's just see what happens. That's what I say, dude. Because it's no way that you or Mel or Fluorescent or God, what's her name? Is it Noor? I believe her name. No,
Noya?
yeah, Noya. Her,
Yeah.
Mimi and Godly. I can't. Their IG, whatever her. I forgot her name. But anyway, like it's no way that you telling me that they cannot compete against some of these male teams. It's just no way. And I did see that Mel. She said something on Twitter about where she did try out for a male team, but
Yeah,
they
and then
won.
someone said they didn't want to
Yeah,
play.
like how pathetic you are for that, man.
Yeah,
I just think you like
for sure.
yeah, that's just like really. And then the thing is, I know Mel had to perform. There's no way. So because they never said anything about her performance. So
Yeah, exactly. It's
it,
literally just like the principle, right? Of
yeah,
like playing with someone different. Yeah.
and that's so weird to me, man. So I just
Mhm.
always it's I don't know. And it's there's no scientific like no science fact to where like a male is like quicker or faster or whatever than a woman. And when it comes to esports, like that's just that doesn't even make sense. So I would they just bring them together and just I should just see what happens. That's why I say do. Because like if in my opinion, I mean I know that's like a big thing, but I would just love to see the women team or the male team they combined, or the if this is all a women's team and all men go at it. I would
Yeah.
love to see that because it would really expose a lot of these players that probably are not that good on this side, on the male
Mhm.
side, and it really gets exposed. And I'm just like, hey, why not?
Yeah, it
So
would be interesting to see for sure.
most definitely. So my second question is, who would you say you model your game after? Like, who do you like mostly look at to like model yourself off of?
Man, that's a good question, and I wish I had one specific role model, but I honestly don't really. I think it just kind of comes down to like a collection of my experiences
Mm-hmm.
of watching and playing with really good players. Like I've never really watched a lot of like professional Valorant. Like that's something that like my former teammates on Misfits would make fun of me for because they'd be like, "Oh, like there's this match going on, like like DRX versus PaperX, whatever." And I literally don't even know any of the players on the teams because I just like don't keep up with it, right? And so they're like, then like like who do you watch from the scene? I'm like, I don't watch anyone. They're like, my favorite professional player is like I guess you guys, like I really I really don't watch it, so I don't really have someone that I model my game after. I guess I take a little bit from everyone that I played with that I respect.
Okay.
And I try to like I mean I'll learn things from a ranked player sometimes, very
Yeah,
rarely, but sometimes, you see a ranked player do like a cool play and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna
I
try that
like
out
that.
sometime. Someone shits on you and does something crazy, I'm like, okay, I'll try that out and like see how it works. So I'd say I model it based on like past versions of myself, right? Like VOD
Okay.
reviewing and seeing like how I play and then seeing like, what differences I can make with that, right? It's always just like constantly developing like your own weaknesses and
Hmm.
trying to like make those better. I feel like is the best way to improve.
So would you so what would be like a player that you would like your dream player you would want to play with, in the scene?
Man, playing on a team with like Mel, IGLing would be crazy. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
everyone, she's so respected and well known for a
Yeah.
reason. I mean, she's genuinely so kind and she's just like so passionate about it and is like constantly like, striving to actually improve and is improving.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's gonna be a lot of game changers players' answers, but I mean, it's the common answer for a reason.
I when I saw her win, I cried. When she was
Yeah,
crying, I was like, I'm crying for you. I'm crying with you. Oh my god, I was so happy for you. I was like, oh my god, like
yeah,
it
she
had me too.
deserves it.
She
She deserves it for sure.
definitely, because I'm not even gonna lie. With her IGLing, I kind of, when I had the IGL, I kind of watched some of her games back and see what like what strats that she came up with. Some of the stuff that she does, and I try to like use some of the stuff that she does. So it's she's goaded. So I'm not surprised that's your answer. I was wondering. I was curious. Was were you gonna have a different answer? So, but my last question is, so what would you say to more like to like aspiring women who are looking to go into the game changer scene, or even pursue college, college Valorant, what would you say to them that would like help them on their journey?
I'd say if you're a person who's looking to get into the game changer scene, if you're looking to go through like the collegiate route, I think that's a great option. Like always, always, always when you're chasing your passions, have a backup, especially if it's something as competitive as going professional in like a sport or esports.
Hmm.
So always have a backup plan. I think that it's untrue that you can't pursue something like going professional without like committing your all of your time to it. I got told that many times by people, who believed in me. They would be like, you know what, like if you want to go pro, then you have to invest that time first. And yes, of course you have to invest time, but you don't have to invest your life in it, right? Like you
Hmm.
don't have to like wake up, eat, sleep, breathe Valorant, right?
Hmm.
Like you just have to find a careful balance of where you're still improving and where you're still like striving to reach your goals, but you're also working on other aspects of your life, right? Like I don't think that chasing after something with like everything that you have is necessarily the best way to go about something, right? Some things when they're meant to happen, they will happen. Even if you're good enough to make it in a scene, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the opportunity to, right? So you
Hmm.
shouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket, but you should always be confident in yourself and be like, you know what, like even if it seems really, really hard, and there are going to be people who are going to be like, you know what, like there's so many people, why would they choose you? Like
Hmm.
so many people think that, right? But you got to have like the confidence in yourself so that when you have the opportunity that comes along, you can actually seize it, right? And like no one wants someone who like doubts themselves, right? Like no
Hmm.
team's going to sign someone who's like, "Oh, I don't know if you should sign me." Like you got to be confident in yourself to get
Yep.
there and like kind of fake it till you make it. If you know that you have that base level of skill,
Hmm.
like just keep on chasing after those opportunities, but don't be afraid to put time and effort into other aspects of your life while you're like chasing after things that you care about, right? Like your passions won't always like end up being your career path, but you should just like keep it as a hobby, like try to enjoy it and have fun with it, because even if you don't get signed, like who cares? Like you're having fun with the game. It was a
Hmm.
fun period in your life. It's not all going to waste if you don't go pro in it. Just keep a balance in your life. Don't know life Valorant. Always a bad idea. Esports is a tank of your time.
Definitely is. Definitely is. Well, thank you again for being here. Thank you for taking time out, of your day to be here and everything. I really, really appreciate it. Hey, Cody.
That's such a cute little dog.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, he's yeah. Well, I guess he's camera shy. But then
oh,
again,
the sweater.
yeah, he's Hey man, yeah, I guess he smelled food downstairs. But
That's cute.
yeah, his name is Cody. He's man, he's old, like 10 years
Oh,
old.
yeah.
So
I was gonna say he looks like an old dog. So cute.
but thank you again, Teddy, for being here. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys out there that's listening, you take, what she said, especially for the women out there that are, very talented, that are, passionate about the game of Valorant, that wants to, go that pro route. Like she said, it's going to be hard, but if you have confidence in yourself, if you believe in yourself, and you know that you can make it, I guarantee, you'll be able to make your dreams come true. So thank you guys again for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all take care.
See you guys. Bye.